Guys, I'm filled with buoyancy and hope today. We have a very special guest. The original Chill Guy meme was made after this individual. Um, Political commentator, sales extraordinaire, Max Murray. Thanks for being on, Max.
Hey, good to be here today. Appreciate it.
Um, Max, I kind of want to give a little history or background to everyone on you. So Max got his journey into sales 3 years ago now.
Yep.
He started with a different sales company, and then this last summer kind of went out with us. But the journey probably began a little bit before that. But so if you could walk us through from like your origin story, starting like where you began in sales, and then just kind of bringing us forward to today. And it could even be before your first summer sales. Maybe you had a cute lemonade stand or something like that going on in high school. I don't know. So
Yeah, for sure. So originally, like door to door in sales itself didn't really it hasn't gone back too far with me. Not gonna lie, like I haven't had like parents or anything that's super involved in it. But kind of what got me started was my older brother. He in high school we became really close friends, and he decided he was going to try it. He had some buddies that worked for a different pest control company, and so he decided to go out and just give it a shot. And he actually did super well. And I got to kind of see him from a home perspective, out there succeeding, having fun, being able to just build. I saw like a ton of growth inside him, and so that kind of like sparked interest in me. And in this sales thing, it kind of was like when he first started talking about it, it was interesting to me because there was no guarantee. Right, that's what's awesome about sales is there's no guarantee, but there's also no cap in anything that you do. Right, it's all kind of dependent on you. You get to wake up every day and you get to just kind of make it happen. And so as I saw him do that, it kind of sparked a little bit of desire in me. Right, like you know what, I want to go forward with this. I want to try it out. I saw he was successful. I had some things coming up in my life at the time where I was like, I need some funding behind it to make it happen. And so after high school, I graduated. The next day I packed all my stuff and I hit the road. And I drove up and I started in Washington. And from there, like sales has always just kind of been like part of what I've done, right? College never really like fit my exactly what I wanted to do with my life. And so I just decided, you know what, this might be able to help me step into a different realm of ideas and other possibilities that wouldn't be able to happen if I was just sitting at home going to class. And so I stepped into the sales world, and from there it's just kind of, I honestly just kind of feed off it now, right? To where it's like, you know what, I get to wake up every day. There's not just like a rote thing that I do, but I get to wake up every day and decide what happens. And I get to ultimately decide the outcome. Not necessarily as far as the numbers go, but the effort that I put in. And that's kind of what sparked my desire to continue in sales. And as I've gone with it, that drive has deepened, and I've found so much personal growth in it, and it's something that's hard to step away from.
it's funny how in sales you do kind of start out with that like, this is risky, like, and then by the end it's like, oh no, that was like one of the beautiful parts of my life where I learned a lot and grew. You talked kind of about some soft skills that you feel like you've gained, and like briefly mentioned it, but didn't get really into like, oh, these are maybe some things that I've like really feel like I've learned from this career. Maybe what are some things that you're like, if you had to list off a couple of, I learned X or Y through door to door that's impacted my personal life. Do you have anything that you're like, oh, like this has been a skill that I've gotten from going out knocking?
Absolutely, yeah. There's a ton of different skills that I've kind of picked up along the way. One is kind of like I hit on a little bit is just that personal drive, right? That's something that you have to have in this industry is that desire every morning to wake up and put myself out there and try new things and get out of my comfort zone. And so that obviously you grow and you become better at that, but I think the risk, right, that comes with it. A lot of people tend to step away from the risk side and just pick something that's stable where they know something's going to be coming in. This obviously is a little bit different where you have to take risks, right? You have to put yourself out there, you have to try, you have to learn new things, learn new skills, new techniques, and that really pushes you. Second thing that I feel like I've learned like crazy in this job is managing your life and the things that you do in it, right? Sales, obviously, when you get out there on a normal day, it's a grind, right? You wake up and you that's all you can think about is like the day coming forward. It kind of gets you a little bit anxious sometimes, but then you get out there on the doors and it's like 9 hours of pure grind and grit. And so it develops you mentally, physically, emotionally that way, and overcoming all of these like objections and no's and stuff throughout the day. And so it kind of molds you into a person that's almost feels unbreakable, right, by the end of it.
100%.
But I love that you also have to take a different step into it, and that you have to manage your life outside of the doors too, right? If you just wake up and then roll out of bed and all of a sudden you're on the doors again,
Slamming monsters.
It makes for a long summer, right? It makes for some long months, some long days. And so what I was able to learn is that outside of your job and your career, you have to have more balance, right? Whether that's the spiritual aspect of your life, the physical aspect, right? Going to the gym, doing all these different things to where you can separate it, right? Separate like your career and your job and your life. And when I've done those things, and I've really learned that as you have good balance in your life, that you're able to go for a lot longer, right? Burnout doesn't happen as soon because you have more balance in your life.
I heard a guy once say that he didn't think burnout was real, and he was like one of the top sales guys at Vivint. You talked a lot of it in the beginning about risk, and just kind of like at that segment there. I think being able to live in risk is something that's really important. I heard a quote the other day that faith isn't about knowing all the answers. It's about living in the questions. And I think like one of the big things that I think Summer Sales has taught me is that like it's sometimes like living in something that doesn't feel 100% like stable or sturdy. There's a reward to that, and I think that comes in your personal life too. So I agree. I like life should have risk, and it should feel a little bit like you're in the jungle.
Absolutely. I think risk is it's a feared from thing, but it's also where you find yourself, right? It's where you find opportunities. It's where you can propel forward is in risk. I love this, like kind of our age group in this industry is obviously tailored to a younger crowd. And right when you come out of high school and stuff, as you're kind of growing up, all you kind of hear from like, whether it's parents or other people that you communicate with on a regular basis, they just kind of want you to go with the status quo, right? Let's just kind of get into this. Let's not take risks. Let's just set your life up to where you're not have to be fighting for your mortgage someday, right? But this is an opportunity to where you're young, right? In your life, it's not like we have like big families that we're providing for, and so now's the time to take risk, right? Now's the time where we have the ability to do so, and that is an opportunity that I feel like needs to be taken at some point, and what a better time to do it than now.
Maybe
Will you respond to that, dude? I mean, you just didn't get your mic up. I don't know if that fell down or.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, we can get that up here and tighten it. It's still going down. Okay. There we go. Sorry for the interruption.
Yep.
And one of the big risks I saw you take this year was, I mean, you switched companies. You switched from who you were selling with before and then came over here. Talk to me on that process, because I think that's a scary leap for some people, but many people have been asked to do that over their career, or it was the right decision. What are some things that you're like went into you deciding that, and what are some things you learned just in transitioning?
Absolutely. That was actually a huge learning point in my life. I kind of just had plans, and I had already signed to go with another company, and so everything just kind of felt like it was already there. And then like 3 or 4 weeks before the summer, it was like before April 1st was coming, I got approached by 2 different companies, this one and a different one. And it was mostly because of just like friends, right? Garrett and a bunch of others kind of was talking to me a little bit. And it was also because they didn't pressure me at all. Like, hey, you should do this. Like, it's a much better decision. But they just kind of gave some positives and of why they did what they did and why they're staying. I think was the biggest thing. It's like, this is why I chose this and this is why I'm staying here, right? Instead of changing. And so I started to take those kind of things. I was kind of hard-headed at the beginning. I'm like, no, like I've got the setup. I've got everything I need. Kind of like get out of here. But then I started opening up a little bit and I started asking questions, and I started to just kind of put these things in front of me to see what would be the best, not only for me. I think once you kind of get in like more of like a management position, your thoughts stop worrying about yourself and you more start worrying about your team, right? And so that was kind of my aspect of like, okay, what's going to be the best for my guys, right? The people that are out here putting in the work. And so I started comparing it, and it was a stressful few weeks because I knew I was in crunch time, right? I knew that like I needed to get on the door soon, and I needed to let people know answers. And so I started making decisions, and I looked at the numbers a lot. Obviously, that's a big thing in this industry is the numbers and how you'd be successful more on like the temporal side in the money aspect and for your guys. But I also was incredibly interested in the other side, right? Like what it was going to look like, what was the community of guys like, what was the culture, what was a day-to-day, what was a weekend going to look like, right? These things matter in this job because you need to be separate, right? Kind of like I talked about earlier, you need that balance.
When you feel them all day, like those are things, all those things you wake up to, morning, evening, night, all that stuff. So
yeah, absolutely. And so I just factored all those things in, right? I was like, okay, what is it going to look like on the weekends? What's the culture? What are things going to look like? And I decided that this was the best fit for not only me, but for my team. That it was the best group of guys I could be around that were influenced me to do good, but also going to be there to push me, right, on the sales aspect of it, because that's also a huge thing is you need a group, a team behind you to help you push forward. And that's ultimately, this is where I came to. And that's what I found all summer long. It was consistent. And I looked back the other day, I was just kind of thinking back to the summer and the things we've been doing for the last 5-6 months. And I sat down, I was like, that was a very stressful point in my life, but I made the right decision.
Cool. I'm glad. Well, and honestly, it's been fun working with you and just learning from you. And one thing that I think you brought, I think to the table this year was a ton of like great energy for everyone that was out there. I know a lot of people looked up to you. One of the things that I think you do really well is keeping a healthy contract value. And I just want to talk to you on that. What are some things that you think are important to sell at a good contract at a high level? Because one, you can throw up volume still, but you still keep your CVs at a decent place. And I think a lot of times I think that begins with belief, but do you have other tips that you're like, hey, this is something that I think is big on raising your contract value or selling it at a higher way?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to say contract value was a topic of conversation a lot throughout the summer for me and for a lot of the guys. I realized, though, at the beginning it started with belief, right? That's what it comes ultimately down to is your ability on the door to be able to just be confident in the number that you present and you start at, right? And wherever that number is, I really don't think it ended up mattering that much, right? And I would always put myself in a homeowner's position, right? I'd say, okay, let's say I have a problem, right? Let's say that I've seen a few cockroaches in the kitchen, right? And my daughter got stung by a wasp last week, right? If a guy approaches me, let's see, he approaches me and he could say, look, we can get this done for $119 or $169, right? To me, I'm not really comparing it unless I've got like a bunch of quotes here recently. But if he's confident that he's going to be able to take care of my problem and he's confident in the price that he's giving me, and ultimately, I mean, you're using a bunch of different sales techniques, right, that they don't really care what the price is at the end of the day. At the end of the day, if their problem's getting fixed and they can feel comfortable having their family outside and they can enjoy a space that they've bought, right, and wanted to use, $50 a quarter or every other month, right, isn't that significant to them. And so I just kind of helped my team to start, and then it kind of branched out to the rest of the office on kind of that mentality that that's not the huge part of it. Address their concerns, obviously create rapport with them, right? And if you're a real person and you can have a conversation with them, the price at the end of the day is honestly the least of their worries.
That's cool. Talk to me about that in a switchover situation.
Yeah.
Let's say you're like switching someone over and they're like, hey, I'm paying less. Like, what are some things that you're like, hey, I use this phrase or I lean back on this idea? Like, is it pretty similar, or would you say, oh, it's kind of different? Or
switchovers, I think, are similar. I feel like you have to definitely kind of work a little bit more on the numbers, but I had plenty of opportunities this summer where somebody was paying $75 a quarter and they upgraded to $170 a quarter, right? So it's like those are rare, but like making those $50 to $100 jumps isn't that significant to them. Ultimately, it goes back to me to building value. What's their issue, right? What's the problem? Ultimately, a lot of people over time, like as you start to have conversations. At first, they're always pretty closed off. But if you can move them, right? Move them around, get them seeing the problem existing still, right? If you can, that was one of my biggest things this summer is I look back at the statistics, and if I moved somebody, it was like a 60% chance that I was closing the deal. And so I'd instantly move them and get their eyes seeing what they're not getting, right?
For those listening, and maybe for a first year guy, what are some ways in which you're moving people? Like maybe could you make that visual for us?
Absolutely. Ultimately, my first thoughts is let's get them off the doorstep as fast as possible, right? The doorstep is the no zone, right? That's where, I mean, they've had probably 15 guys that have been at their house this summer. And so you need to get them out of that place where they feel comfortable to say no to you, right? Because they've probably said no to everybody before you. And so kind of what I'll do is I'll get up there on the doorstep and I'll ask them questions, right? Kind of more find out questions. It's like, where did the problem originate? Why did you get somebody in the first place? What was the main problem you were seeing? And then once they bring up one of those, ultimately that's a hot button, right? For you, it gives you ammunition. You move them to where they saw that, right? And so as fast as I can, I'm like, yeah, let's go take a quick peek. And you have to leave and walk with confidence. That's the biggest thing is like, I'll see some guys that walk and they'll just kind of look back and see if they're coming, right? Don't look back at them. Say, let's go take a look. And you turn and you walk and you be confident and they follow you 99% of the time. They follow you. If you're the one confident, you're the one leading the conversation, they follow. And you get their eyes on it. And once they see that they're paying for a service that obviously is probably less than yours, more often than not, they've probably been with that company for a while. But now they're fixated like on, okay, I still have a problem and I'm paying money for it not to be taken care of. Then they see the value of, okay, it's $50 more, let's say a quarter, right? But it's actually going to make a difference and change. And so I'm willing to make that leap and make that jump to see these problems actually get taken care of.
That's cool. I like what you said about like not looking back or like double taking on them. I had a buddy that was sold with me one year, and he said, customers are like dogs and girls you're trying to date. He's like, your body language has to be good.
That's true.
And I've seen that be true. Like, you really do have to go walk confidently and with whatever you're doing on the porch to get someone to respond well. Cool. I guess, sheltering out of that, and let's talking about, like, investments and stuff like that. I mean, one thing I've noticed about you is you're a man of order. You have things like streamlined, dedicated. You have like a good forecast of what's coming down the road. What are some things that you're like? These are things that I think are great to put your money or your time or your energy once you've made the money that you get from the summer.
Absolutely. I saw for so long at the beginning of my time in this industry, I'd see people make a ton of money, right? And it blew my mind, and I didn't think it was real. But then I'd see them go out and buy like a brand new AMG, right, and drop 150 grand on a car or something. I'm like, oh dang, like maybe that was real, right? But that always just didn't sit right with me, right? I'm like, holy crap, you just worked your butt off for 5 months, and you come back and buy a car, and you got to go back next year now.
What
right?
is your dream car though?
Gosh, that's a good question. I'm a big truck guy, so some kind of F-350 Platinum, I'd have to say.
Okay.
As far as cars go, have to go with the Porsche 911.
Porsche, okay.
Yep.
I was gonna say when you were listing out, most people are like, don't get an expensive car, but then you start listing out these specific ones. I'm like, do you want an AMG? Like, is that the car?
Hey, I would never turn one down. I'm a Porsche guy, but
we'll talk to the incentive team for next year.
Right, I like that. But I saw all these things happening, right, and I saw a lot of ultimately financially poor decisions being made, right, and I saw the amount of money that you can make and what you could actually do with it to create ultimately like passive income and like build off of that instead of just watching it go down the drain. And so that's ultimately like what drug me along throughout the summer is having a why. Like, okay, why am I here? And what is this for? Right? My first summer, it was for my mission, right? Is I was like, I need money to go. And so that kind of gave me a drive to be able to make money. This summer, it looked a little bit differently, right? And I have other plans and other things. I'm getting big into like aviation. And so putting my money in places there where I can succeed later is something that's huge for me. And being able to watch that money go further than just like a one-time purchase. And so whether that's aircraft rental is kind of what I'm looking at right now and putting my money into purchasing those. It's similar to buying a townhome, right, or putting your money in real estate. Ultimately, it's creating passive income for you for the long run. And that's what this job can create that I think nothing else can, right? Is that now all of a sudden you have this lump of cash sitting here instead of just like letting it sit there in your savings account, or you could definitely put it in great places where you're making interest on it, but there's other ways, right, to where you can expatiate on that money that you've made and see it go a lot further than most people would.
That's cool. So let's humanize you for a little bit, Max. I mean, you got a wide variety of interests. I mean, I went golfing with you, and you made me feel like one of the characters from Peanut Butter Falcon. So I was like, man, these guys are pros. You and your brother are great golfing. So you do like to get up in the air too. You fly. With all those different, like, do you have other hobbies or stuff that you're like, oh wait, I get out and I do this, or this is something that I do to like after the summer? We're in the fall time now, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. There's like 3 other things that I love to do with my time besides like flying, right, and golfing. I love dirt biking. It's one thing that me and my little brother and my dad, and honestly my older brother too, that we just love to do. We love to get out there in the mountains on Saturday mornings or whenever time's available, and we get out there and ride. And so that's a huge hobby for me, is riding dirt bikes. Love fishing, love hunting. Right, so I just love being outside.
I don't know the fishing. We'll have to go.
We sure will. We sure will. Supposed to go this morning.
Oh, shoot! Someone didn't wake up, or
late night.
Okay. All right, dude. I love it. Well, cool. So, talk to me really quick too on maybe some good quotes, some things that you've like. Hey, I've heard this along the way. This is a good maxim that I heard that kind of lifted me or pushed me through different times. Do you have any things like that you lean back on?
Yeah, there's, as far as like actual like quotes that I could state like verbatim, I don't have a ton, but I have ideas that come from a lot of different places. One thing that I've just turned back to so many times from even like the beginning of high school is I don't know where it stems from exactly, maybe you would, but it's being able to, you pick your hard, right? You pick your hard in life. It's hard to wake up every day, right? It's hard to wake up early, go to the gym, right? Push yourself every day. That's hard, right? It's hard to work hard, get out there on the doors in 95-degree heat, right? 70% humidity. That's hard. It's hard to do these things. It's hard to work hard, put in the effort. But it's also hard to not be able to be scared about paying a mortgage someday, right? It's also hard having to worry about how I'm going to provide, right? For a family, it's hard those are also hard things. And so I've always leaned back to pick your hard, right? Which side of the fence do you want to lie on, right? Both things are hard. Both are going to take effort. Both are going to take consistency, but which side do you want to be on? And so that's something that I always think back on, is just pick your hard for that day, right? It doesn't have to be like, I like to look at things in small intervals, right? Just tackle the next thing, right? Whether it's the next door, whether it's the next gym session, right? Tackle things one at a time, and over time that domino effect will create great things. And so if I can focus on small things now, focus on the present, putting myself 100% in the present, and over time that develops into big, large, great things.
It's cool. I like that a lot. And it's the simple lessons like that of just like, hey, you got to do hard stuff that it's the people that actually implement it that just have a great life.
It's true.
So talk to me about this too. So we talked a little bit about sales. We talked a little bit about your history, and then like maybe some good quotes. What's something that's like, man, this was wild that happened out in the doors? Like, did you like gun getting pulled, like getting attacked, like anything like that? Do you have any like, whoa, some like life, something that you wouldn't want to tell first year?
Yes, absolutely. I've got one that still keeps my mom up at night from this last summer. I'm a big city knocker. I like to knock in the city. I like to be in the neighborhoods. Don't mind a cookie cutter neighborhood. I know a lot of people don't love that kind of thing, but that's just kind of what I started with, and so that's kind of what I've continued. And so this last summer, I found myself in some pretty rough areas, right? I was in Houston. There's rough areas of Houston, and there's a few times I found myself in them. And so one day, gosh, I was on the doors. It was Saturday. It's actually Memorial Day, right? So not a lot of people even want to be on the doors in general. It's a holiday, right? But great opportunity to find people that are home. And so we were out there grinding. It was like a 10-hour day that day, I think, is what we put up. So we just put our feet down. About 7 o'clock came around. People are grilling out right, in their front yards and their garages in the backyard. And I walk up and I'm talking to this lady. And she's actually super interested. And I'm like closing the deal. And she's like, let's do it. Let's move forward with it. I'm getting paperwork going. And so I'm getting her info. And all of a sudden a car pulls up. And a guy gets out, starts throwing a fit. And anyways, a few guys start going at it. Right, they start beating each other up, throwing hands right here in front of me and this guy's wife.
Oh, whoa! I thought he was gonna go out with you. So just two dudes.
No, two other dudes started fighting each other right in front of us. And eventually, I was like, "You got to be kidding me! This is the worst timing ever, right?" And so the wife's like, "You have got to go. You got to get far from here and don't come back like anytime soon." And so I was like, "Whatever. This is a crazy objection if this isn't real." But I end up going down the street. I'm kind of like speed walking down the street because things are like starting to get really heated. Anyways, this guy jumps back in his car, drives towards me. I'm like 30 yards from him. We're about 6 houses down from that house. And this guy slams on his brakes. And I'm like, oh, crap. Like, let's not do that here. Like, I'm getting out of here. Guy jumps out of his car with a gun and starts throwing shots back at this house.
Whoa.
Like, right in front of me. I dive behind a car. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. This isn't real. And so, luckily,
Did he hit anybody?
I don't know. There was a bunch of commotion going on over there. People were screaming. Obviously, they got bullets flying at them. And so I dove behind a car and hung out there for a second, hunkered down, and the guy jumped back in his car and took off. And at that point, I was like, all right, maybe I need to get out of here for today. And so I walked back to my truck and moved areas for the last hour and a half. But I'd say that was definitely a war story. Not something you see every day.
That's crazy, bro. And what's wild is like that they started the fight with witnesses. Like
all over.
Yeah, there's like the door-to-door guy and some like sweet housewife in front of. Yep, that's crazy.
I went back the next day. Then unfortunately, she wasn't home. I don't know if they were at the hospital or what, but couldn't close the deal.
Well, it's funny. Like whenever those stories would happen to me, I wouldn't call home and tell my mom. But what's funny is my little brother Garrett. Whenever something crazy happens, he would just be like, "Hey guys, want to hear what happened today?" You're like, "Whoa!" I would always hide it, but I think it's probably better to share.
Sometimes it depends on the situation. I waited a little bit of time, and then said, "Oh, we're good now."
That's smart. I've been fine for a couple days.
Yeah, that's right. Good times.
Well, cool. So, let's talk to you about like everyone has like. I guess there's 3 kind of jobs. There's a job, there's a career, and then there's a life mission. And I think at different times in my life, I've done different like occupations, and they fit in those categories. I guess where you're at right now, do you feel like this has been a good vehicle for growth? And kind of what is like the life mission for Max Murray?
Absolutely. I think that this is the vehicle, right? Ultimately, I've had a lot of different jobs throughout high school, and they're awesome, right? They work, they get the job done for the time being, but you don't find a lot of purpose there. This job is huge in that nature that I have found so much growth. I found so much drive, right? And I've learned so much about myself that I think will set me up for the rest of my life. I've learned a ton about myself and the things that I want in my life, and the people that I surround myself with, the things that I do on a daily basis. And it's all stemmed from this opportunity, right? And so I would say that door-to-door and this industry is the vehicle that is going to propel me forward. Now, at this point in my life, I don't know if it's like a long-term thing, right? Whether like this is like what I want to do for the rest of my life. I think it would be awesome and a great opportunity. And I have a lot of friends that have done that, and they've been able to create pretty awesome things because of it. For me, I feel like it is a vehicle, right? That it's propelling me and giving me opportunities that I would never have had. Ultimately, I want to be able to do something that I want to be able to have a career someday that I can still spend time with my family, right? That I can have a lot of control over the things that I do, right? And so whether that ends up being in like the aviation world, that's still to be determined right now, right? But I want to make a difference, right? And this allows opportunities to do that. Ultimately, I get to work with a ton of people. I'm creating lifelong relationships, right? Yeah. Lifelong things are happening in our midst like every day here. And so I think it's creating opportunities for me to be able to live that out, right? To be able to put money in places where it can become passive, right? Where I don't have to worry so much about an hourly schedule and the grind of every day, 9 to 5, but that I can see life from a different perspective, right? That it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be behind a desk doing that, but that I can create opportunities now to where I can have more availability later to do the things that bring me joy. And ultimately, I think that resides in faith, right? Your faith, your family, and that's kind of what's propelling it forward.
That's cool. I like that you talked about leadership there. Like knitting hearts together is actually a lot harder than a lot of people think. And this was your first year, like bringing out and managing people. What were some things you learned there? Some things you're like, man, that was a lot harder than I expected.
Yeah, that's a good question. Bringing a team out changes your whole outlook on the summer, right? Because like I said earlier, you're less focused about what you're doing every day, right? That they were always on my mind. Luckily, I've done this job a little bit now to where I feel confident in my, like I'm still learning like every single day in this job, but I feel a little bit more confident in my own abilities to be able to be successful. And so a lot of my efforts and a lot of my energy and thoughts turn to my team, right? I had family on my team. I had best friends on my team, right? And so people that I really cared about. That was a lot harder than I thought it would be, right? To be able to manage both, manage yourself, your own success, but also being able to bring theirs into it too. And that's ultimately where I found a ton of joy. At the end of the day, I'd get in the truck, and if one of my guys had a good day, like I didn't care like what my day looked like after that. Like we just chatted about his day, and that's honestly what brings joy. And I think that's like goes for all things in life, right? The other people's success and joy, like that taught me that you can find so much joy in helping other people, and being able to see them succeed and find joy in their successes. And so that honestly helped me throughout the summer. It wasn't like my first summer, I'm the only person that's here. Everything I do affects just about me only. Where this summer was different, having a team that your actions obviously affected them. The amount of time you put into them affected them and you. And then being able to just find joy in their successes and seeing them succeed and seeing them be like, you know what, this summer was a success, right? I'm glad I came. I feel like it was worth my time 100%. And now they're finding opportunities to grow too.
Well, and I also think too, like whenever people come and ask me, they're like going from a first year to a second, like what are the things I can do to work on my pitch or work on my ability to sell? And really it's bringing out other people. Like, 100%. Like sometimes people want to sit all day and talk about like a strategy or how do I breathe when I'm on the doorstep. And I think if you have to be in an environment where you're constantly providing value to someone else to help get them to sell, you're just becoming such far more capable salesman yourself, because you're selling not anymore from 9 to 9. You're selling 24/7 when you're off the door, when you're getting up to the door. Like there's just a lot of like salesmanship that's going on out there. And I wouldn't even call it just sales. It's just a lot of like interacting with humans and learning how to get the most out of them.
Absolutely true.
Talk to me really quick on maybe some things that you've read. Has there been a book or maybe even a podcast that you're like, this one has really shaped my mind and changed some of my thoughts to better execute in sales?
Yeah. There's a couple of people in a book that I'm reading right now and a couple people that I've looked forward to. Honestly, the people that I listen to, like a lot of them have like sales backgrounds, but they talk a lot more than just sales, right? About being a good person, about self-development. One guy, Tony Robbins, I'm sure you're familiar with him. He is awesome, right? I listen to him quite a bit, just kind of as like more of like myself, like being able to build myself up and be the best person I can be. And then I can help other people do the same thing. Another guy, Andy Frisella. I don't know if you're super familiar with Andy Frisella.
I know Tony. I don't know Andy.
He's awesome. He's built quite the life out of himself. I mean, he came from nothing and has built himself up into quite the figure. And he's out of St. Louis. He owns a protein-like company now. But he's just not afraid to speak his mind, which I love. He's not afraid to put himself out there, say his ideas, put out his opinions, and he takes backlash for it a little bit, but he's not afraid to be who he is and embrace his ideas. And so I've learned a lot from him, and just being able to he's kind of a hard dude, but being able to not be afraid to say what you think, to not be afraid to say what you believe, the things that you think are right, the things that you think are wrong. And it's helped me be a little bit more open of a person. And that's to my team, that's to family, and that's to people on the doors, right? They need to see that I'm a real person. And so if people can see that, like, that's when they start buying, right? Because they're like, you know what, this guy isn't just like a robot. This isn't just like the other 15 guys I've seen this summer, right? I can connect with them. I can share my ideas. We can have conversations outside of just pest control. And that's what creates, for me, a lifelong customer, right? Somebody that's like, this is a real person. This is a real company. These people are trying. And so that guy's been awesome to me. And then I'm reading a book right now. It's by Steve Young, Law of Love.
Great book.
Great book. And that's just given me a lot of perspective. A lot of perspective into the way that I treat people, in the way that I view myself. It's given me a lot of purpose.
That's cool. Well, I like a lot of those answers, and I really do love the book Law of Love. It's a great one. I think everyone that in some level of leadership should read. Talk to me really quick on maybe what are some things you're looking to change next year when you go out, and why?
Good question. Next year, there's a couple things that I've been thinking about. One is ultimately revolves around first to my team. Next year, I want to put even more of an emphasis on them in training, right? And before we go. In this job, obviously, a lot of it is kind of you just feel like you're fed to the wolves, and everybody has to experience that at least once. It's like I have no idea really what's happening, but we're just going to go for it and figure it out. But I think there's also a level of being prepared, right? And having these different tactics and strategies and being confident in your own abilities, in your own pitch to be able to go out there and put that forth. And so training before the summer, I think would be awesome in helping that kind of happen. And then when I'm actually out there, bringing the team together more often, and not just my team, but an office, right? We're out there all fighting the same battle, right? We know what we're all going through. Everybody's got hard days, even the top guys. A lot of people ask, like, what's the secret, right? It's like hard work, your hand going on the door, right? Eventually confidence does bring a big part of that, and having experience. But I think when you can get a community of people together more often, it builds so much unity, right? And you can start the day with a group of people that are all out there with the same purpose in mind, right? All out there trying their best. And with community, I mean, I think that brings loads of energy. It brings effort back into it. And so that's something I want to do next year is have more reasons and try harder to bring everybody together.
That's cool. Well, speaking of community, it can also push you too. Was there ever a name that you saw popping up on the leaderboard this year that, like, when you saw their name pop up, you got a little sharper because you wanted to, like, stay with or kind of, like, outperform so-and-so?
Yeah, I mean, as far as, like, an individual, not so much. There's a group of guys around me that I knew were close to me in revenue. That's what I love about this job is it just pushes you, right? There's a competitive aspect to it. That's why I love looking at the leaderboard. I mean, I'm refreshing that. Some people don't like to look at it. I do. It fuels me. But guys that were around me in revenue, guys that were top guys in the office, like I'd see their name pop up, especially if it was like at like noon. I'm like, I got to get on my horse, right? I got to go right now.
Yeah.
And so that leaderboard, that competitive aspect pushes you so far. As far as an individual, not so much. But a community of a few guys that I saw, and when I started seeing those numbers start going up, I was like, holy crap, like I got to put my shoulder to the wheel. And so I think that competitive aspect pushed me so far.
That's cool. Talk to me just real quick on maybe who are some people that you would give like a most improved award to? Like I think a lot of times people want to talk about, oh, this is the MVP, or this is the guy that went out and, like, they were the best, or so. Who is someone that you're like, they just became so much more capable, if that makes more sense?
Yeah, it's a good question. I saw that in a lot of different people. As far as my team goes, I saw that in my buddy AJ, right? He's awesome. I freaking love him to death. He's like the nicest person ever. And so, like, he never really wants to, like, say anything that, like, is going to hurt somebody else, which I just love about him. But I was able to, at the beginning of the summer, he said, I won't overcome an objection. He said, I won't do it. I can't. He's like, it's just not me, right, to, like, keep pushing for something like that. If somebody tells me no, like, I just feel weird kind of going past that. And over the summer, I kind of, like, watched him a little bit go on beyond that. And he kept trying a little bit harder, and I'd give him, like, a little technique or, like, a little bit, like, hey, try just one more time, right? You don't need to like push like some guys out here like we'll be pushing like 4, 5, 6 times in a deal, right? He wasn't that kind of guy, but I saw him improve so much in the person that he was, right? And from sales to being able to just like talk to people and be able to bring sales techniques into it to just being a good person and just kind of he brings that and he emulates that on other people. His light shines, that's for sure.
That's cool. I like AJ. I ran into AJ DeMonza the other day at Harmon's, and he actually made me think of AJ. So
Dude, that was the man,
yeah.
AJ DeMonsta.
Talk to me really quick on maybe some basic things like health-wise. What are some things that you're like, man, maybe you saw this slip throughout the summer that you're like, this is something that everyone needs to keep a focus, because it's so much more than just actually knocking doors or sales. What are some things that you're like, these are health keys to having a good summer?
Absolutely. I think this is a huge topic for me. Obviously, like, it's a very physically demanding, mentally demanding, emotionally demanding job that we have. And so you need to be able to provide your body the things that it needs to continue that day in and day out. It's pretty brutal, the kind of the beat down that we put on ourselves. And so health is a huge part of that. This summer, I put a huge emphasis on it. I mean, we woke up in the morning at a solid hour, we go to the gym, right? And that just let me decompress. You always feel better after you go to the gym. And so that kind of gets you off on a good start. And then eating.
I could never, sorry to cut you off, but
No, you're good.
I could just never gym. Like when I was out there, that's impressive that you were gymming the whole time.
It's brutal. I mean, you definitely miss some days, but we had a little group that we got together in the mornings, and so that helps when you have a little bit of accountability there. But as far as eating goes, I think that's huge. The things that you're putting in your body is what's going to give you the energy you need to be able to be effective and efficient and have a sharp mind, right? To be constantly thinking one step ahead. And so one thing that we tried this summer that was great is we hardly ever ate out, at all. On the weekends we did, right?
That's impressive.
As a group, we would eat out on the weekends, but it was hard and it took daily effort because you pass 30 restaurants on the way home. It's I could just stop in and be fed. I'm starving. But we'd go home. We'd go to the store once a week. We'd buy food and we would go home. And we'd be getting out the pots and pans at 10:30 at night, and we're cooking ourselves, whether it's chicken, rice, pork, beef, right? And so we were able to do that in at least in our living
shout out our
sense.
sponsors, the proteins. That's
Amen.
that.
Amen. Gets me through. But that was hard to do, right? It's so much easier to just grab a burger on the way home and hit the hay when you get back. But we were pretty consistent in that. And I saw a huge effect and product of that was in my energy and in my ability to just keep going day in and day out. And burnout doesn't happen as fast, I feel like, if you do that. Because you're just living a healthy lifestyle, right? You're giving the body the nutrients and the protein that it needs to continue to go forward. And so I think health above a lot of things I think it's overlooked for sure.
Okay. I want to ask you one last thing. What's your best middle of summer advice? So you could talk to maybe yourself in the middle of the summer or a rep that's coming up, or what's the best get you through the middle of the journey advice?
I like that. Ultimately, I think that you have to have a goal, right? In this job, you need to come into the summer with some kind of goal, right? Whether that's a goal of revenue, sold accounts, a more personal aspect goal. And in the middle of the summer, you kind of look back and you're just like, holy crap, I'm only halfway through. This has been the longest 2.5 months of my life, right? But I always just went back to the little things. I'm like, okay, I'm at the halfway point. I've seen a lot of guys bounce at that point, right? Where just I'm done. I'm done. But being able to reflect back on the goal and break it down a little bit into your daily goals, right? It's just another day, right? I'm going to push forward. I don't need to look at the whole cookie, right? Just a bite today. I think halfway through the summer, you get one of two people. You get somebody that's ahead of their goal and they kind of just start coasting it out. And you get people that are behind and they're like, I got to get on this, right? I need to put my foot on the gas. I love being the guy in the back, right? Because it pushes you so much further when you're a little bit behind your goal. And so I would go back. I just break my goal down. I'm like, okay, my goal was revenue this year. And so I looked at my revenue goal and I broke it down with the days I had left, right? And the amount of deals that I needed to get just that day, right? And so I was able to just see a small picture of what it's going to be at the end. And that helped me at the halfway point. And I think that can help a lot of people is just go back to your goal and just realize it's just one day at a time. And that goal seems big. You might be behind it. It seems a long way still at the halfway point, that goal. But you can go back to the little things and be like, you know what, today I just got to get 3 or 4 deals, right? And then you can break it down from there, hour by hour. Like, I'm just going to focus on this street. I'm going to focus on these 5 houses. I'm going to move them and be diligent in these efforts. And you start to just, and then day by day, you start to realize you're hitting these smaller numbers, right? These smaller goals. And then at the end of the summer, you can look back and be like, I made that happen, right? I made that goal a reality because I didn't stop. I just kept little bites at a time, and this is what it became.
That's cool. No, living in the present moment, that's very difficult to do, but important, and especially when you're in the middle of things. Because people are good at doing that in the beginning of a journey or at the end, but they're really bad in the middle.
Sure.
So, well, cool. Max, I just want to thank you so much for all that I've been able to learn from you, like just watching you and also just being here on the pod today. I know everyone listening, if they really paid attention, they're going to take a ton away from what you said. You play the game with an amazing flair, yeah, man. Just thanks overall. It's been fun listening from you, learning, and getting to know you.
Hey Dawson, I appreciate you letting me be here. Big shout out to Dawson and his guys. They make a lot more than just door-to-door salesmen, I can tell you that. So I appreciate you being here.
I love you, bro. Thank you.